cross. It's off for grabs now.
Magic ball from Bergkamp to Patrick Vieira.
Oh, would you believe it? Oh, right, what a way to get it.
Fabulous solo goal by Thierry Henry.
Champions.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Arsenal Lounge for another wonderful episode of our weekly podcast. Tom is out and Lev last minute pulled a sickie on us to visit him. So he may join us a little bit later if they do leave. But we have a wonderful, wonderful replacement in the lovely Sophie. Very, very welcome again to Arsenal Lounge. How are you? You good?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invitation.
Pleasure. It's always nice to have you. And obviously, Mo, the usual solid member of the podcast. How are you? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. In fact, I've just had a look at the comments, and one of the first comments I see is simply, "I'm here for Soph." It's the Soph show today. We are just here for
That must be a squaddy.
You're very kind.
Sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, it is.
Must be one of our squaddies. So I'll send him his $10 a little bit later on.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, before we start, obviously, guys, please subscribe to Arsenal Lounge, subscribe to Highbury Squad, where Sophie does shows daily basis with Kevin Campbell, and subscribe to Mo's channel, Moh Haider, for after game reaction, etc. I want to have a different take on today's show, but we start with your thoughts on the game. And Mo, let's start with you. Obviously, your thoughts on the Everton game.
Yeah, thoughts on the Everton game it was a must-win. I said that at the start of the game. It was an absolute must-win, and we fell far, far short of that target, which I don't think is a very high target. I think you could see from the outset of the game that Everton were not a confident team, and I really felt as though initially only Richarlison stood out to me as a player with something about him. And as the game progressed, I saw so many other players grow into that game. And that was, for me, completely a case of Arsenal allowing Everton to gain a bit of confidence. And when we went 1-0 up quite fortuitously into the halftime break, at that point I thought to myself, okay, kind of by the skin of our teeth, quite lucky. But now we're asking Everton to do something they have not done in months. And that is win the game, not only win the game, but do it from a losing position. And I thought to myself, okay, even Arsenal can't mess this one up. And we had the warnings, Richarlison's disallowed goals. Did we heed them? No. And the rest is history. So I was very, very disappointed. Also very disappointed because not only did we not heed that warning of Richarlison in the game, we didn't heed the warning from the previous game of sitting too deep and stop playing any sense of proper football once you do go one goal up. Arteta did not learn that lesson, or wasn't able to execute the learnings of that lesson from the Man United game. So all in all, players, manager, result, performance, weather, everything, awful night. One of the worst this season.
Okay,
Wow.
Sophie?
I concur and agree. September 25th was the last time Everton won a game. They hadn't won a game in 8 games, was it? Or 7? 7 or 8. You guys can correct me. 8 games. They played poorly all season, a depleted club, a little bit like kind of what we've gone through in terms of ownership questions, recruitment questions, spending questions. But for me, the difference is that when you have an experienced manager and you have someone like Rafa Benitez, who has kind of been through that assault course of management, like SAS style when he was at Newcastle United, single-handedly saved Newcastle and is beloved for that. And there's a reason why he was able to still do what he did at Newcastle, because he has the experience to do so. And I loved his interview the other day when he said, look, I think we just all need to stay a little bit calm. I've been in these situations before. I've faced adversity and I've been able to handle them, and we can come out of this. And I felt like, I don't think the first half is even worth discussing. It was an appalling 45 minutes of football from both sides. But in the second half, you could see the difference in the experience of the managers. And this is where I have the biggest challenge with Mikel Arteta, is the in-game management, aside from his man management skills. Rafa Benitez was able to make adjustments. He switched the system a little bit when Townsend went off and Gomez came on. And for me, that's where the game really changed and took on a completely different life. And then Everton were also galvanized by the VAR decisions. You get one goal disallowed, that's a heartbreaker. You get a second goal disallowed, that's a heartbreaker. But the tenacity they showed and the belief, that came from somewhere. Is it each other as teammates, or is it the manager that is infusing that and giving them that essence of never, ever give up? We crawled into a shell again when we went 1-0 up. We rested on our laurels. Same thing we did against Manchester United. We played Manchester United Football Club, not the terrible Manchester United team that we've seen over the last 18 months in the Premier League. And Goodison Park just rallied around the team. And I felt like they had the 12th man. We crawled into a shell. We were unable to overcome that. And, you know, the gutting thing for me also was when that wonder goal went in, it took me back to Highbury. Goodison Park always reminded me of Highbury, that close proximity, the atmosphere, the intensity. And honestly, when they got that goal, and I think Ramsdale got a tip to the bar again, and, you know, the header went in, I sank in my seat and I just said to myself, we are going to lose this game. And that's exactly what happened. And I don't want to hear that Eddie Nketiah hit the post and Aubameyang missed at the end. Yes, we have to take those chances, but we need to be much better when we go a goal up and not take the game to teams versus just think we can rest on a 1-0 lead when we don't have the talent yet and the ability to do that.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. Just before I'll go into this, my thought, there's a super chat from Cliff. Thank you very much for your kind super chat. Poor match, should we say, from both teams, but the real manager managed the match like a veteran and found a way to win. Our gaffer brought on Eddie, which is precisely what I'm about to come to. I didn't watch the game. I went to play football. And I don't have a problem admitting that. I genuinely thought there is no chance that they will go and lose. It can't happen. So I haven't played football on Monday nights because we normally do shows on Monday nights. And I thought I'll go play football. And when I saw the lineup, I was surprised about inclusion of Granit Xhaka. Right? The guy has had a very bad injury. Okay. And he's just been brought back Everton away. And he had the whole 90th minute. Another thing that I saw and I was puzzled with was, if you're gonna bring Aubameyang on, right, bring him sooner. Why you bringing him with 5 minutes to go? What is that going to do? Why not bring him earlier? So you bring in Eddie Nketiah ahead of Aubameyang, and then 5-10 minutes later, with 5-10 minutes to go, you bring in Aubameyang on. To me, Sophie, it looks a bit desperate. It looks a bit unclear. It looks a bit, no one knows what is happening. You know, are you disciplining the guy? If you are, stick to your gun and don't bring him in. Stick to your principle. But if you're going to bring him in and he's your captain, and, you know, with this whole Ronaldo thing and his poor performances, then bring him in earlier. Give yourself a chance. Why leave Granit Xhaka all the way to the end? That did not make sense to me, Sophie. Does it make sense to you? Maybe I'm not getting it, and there's a perfect, well explanation for it.
I don't understand. Okay, if you are punishing your captain, and by the way, I've not been particularly impressed with Aubameyang, and I've actually wanted him to be stripped off the captaincy from the North London derby. You can't show up late as captain to the North London derby and then refuse to do a warm down. There's been a disconnect, however, in my humble opinion, between him and the manager since that. He's not performed very well since that. There's been a regression. And when you then are you choosing to discipline someone in a match situation? Are you trying to prove a point when really sports is all about winning? It's all about 3 points. And sometimes, unfortunately, in sports, you have to play the card of the devil you know versus the devil you don't. And Aubameyang, whether or not he's scoring, I would rather bring him on with the opportunity to grab a goal versus Eddie Nketiah. I would even go as far as to say, why isn't Pepe coming on before him? Clearly, that fella is finished at the club. What is the love fest with Eddie Nketiah right now? He's actually refused to sign the contract that Arteta has offered him, and he's being rewarded with playing time. I think this is what drives some Arsenal fans absolutely nuts. Why do you continue to reward players who want to leave? Granit Xhaka flirted with Jose Mourinho over Instagram all summer, talked about Rome being a wonderful city. We couldn't even sell him at the height of his value with the Euro competition that he had. I mean, it's just shocking stuff. You know, and then I don't want to bring up players like Guendouzi and why he was ostracized, and Saliba. I think it's not a talent issue there. It's definitely a personality and character clash. And I agree that he should bring in players that have the DNA and the culture of what he wants to build. A team is the image of the manager. And under Arteta, I don't see an image. I don't see a style or a philosophy. I do respect how they're trying to change the DNA and culture of the club by getting rid of all the cancer in the dressing room, but also at what cost? We don't have European football. It's been hard to recruit. And now we're relying on young players to save us every single week, and our senior players are not showing up. Why are the senior players? What's happened to Thomas Partey? And then when you need a goal, your captain is on the bench and you don't bring him on. I don't understand the inconsistencies, and I think that is what drives Arsenal fans up the wall.
Yeah, you're 100% spot on, and Mo, it's flabbergasting that you bring in a guy ahead of your captain who's refusing to sign a contract, but then again you end up bringing your captain on as well. As I said, it looks very desperate. It looks like, we try to do something, it's not working out, we'll panic, we'll bring something on. And it's very difficult to disagree with what just Sophie said.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would say is I don't think this was a discipline issue against Aubameyang. I don't think Arteta set out to discipline Aubameyang. It was simply a form issue, that you're not playing very well. This is a must-win game. What's my best chance of getting 3 points? And I don't think Aubameyang was representative of our best chance of getting 3 points. A lot of people called out for Lacazette. My problem with our strikers at the club at the minute is that when Aubameyang plays, he gets chances and doesn't score. But when Lacazette plays, he doesn't even get the chances because he's not even in those positions in the first place. There were a few passes that we're not talking about, you know, a lot of people say, yeah, but what's the point of whipping balls into the box because Lacazette's not exactly 6'4". We're not talking about those sorts of crosses. There were balls whipped across the box where you need that person there that's got that instinct to know where to be, to just get on the end of things. Aubameyang has made a career out of that, actually. Very often in games, you think, he didn't play very well, but he's got 2 goals. You know, how's that happened almost? And Lacazette, you never think that. When Lacazette scores, you're kind of like, people generally sing his praises because he's done everything that he usually does, plus the goal. But the one thing you always get from Lacazette is all the other stuff in terms of dropping deep and a bit of hold-up play and that sort of thing. Ultimately, we need goals right now. When you look at the Premier League goals league table, we're 12th. I mean, that's really, really awful. So I kind of feel as though, you know, it definitely, in my opinion, wasn't a discipline issue, but I do agree with Soph about since the North London derby, things haven't been the same. And it's really interesting me to hear someone else say that, because I've said that quite a few times myself, and I've never heard anyone else link his form with what happened then. But like everyone knows, managers need to get players that like them, that want to play for them. You get certain professionals talking about how they would go and die for a manager. They'd run through brick walls for a manager. And they don't say all managers. They specifically mention which manager. And it's about what you can get out of players. And I don't see Arteta getting anything out of Aubameyang. But then I also say to myself, well, is that only true of Aubameyang, or is it true of all strikers? Is Arteta just not a good attacking manager? This is something I've questioned a lot in the past. So I'm trying to look for the exception to that rule. Is there a striker that is thriving under Arteta? Aubameyang isn't. Lacazette isn't. Eddie Nketiah isn't. Pepe, as maybe not a striker, but a very attacking forward, isn't.
Martinelli isn't.
I don't see him improving under Arteta. What Saka is doing now, he was always doing before, and potentially even better than he's doing now. So I always look at this and I think to myself, there seems to be an issue with our strikers under this Arteta system, and I can't figure out whether it's the strikers at fault or whether it's a system that Arteta has created for them being at fault. And people, yes, they would point to the fact that Aubameyang has had gilt-edged chances in recent games, and Nketiah yesterday, really, really easy chance, didn't put it away. But, these chances, we don't create enough. Anyone can kind of miss one in a game, but you're only getting one a game. Lacazette didn't have a single one. Aubameyang had one, and Nketiah had one. And in terms of the decisions you're talking about, the ones that don't necessarily make a lot of sense, I agree. Playing Xhaka after months and months out against a very physical midfield in Decore and Allen, they're not nice players to play against. I thought that was a strange call, even though Xhaka he wasn't the worst midfielder on the pitch. That was Thomas Partey. But then also bringing on Nketiah, so I don't really understand that when he's going to leave the club in 6 months, as it seems. Though when he did come on, he did okay. I mean, he was close to scoring, was in a good position, good movement for that header, didn't finish, but he was one that created the chance for Aubameyang. But we shouldn't be relying on an Nketiah when, what's his track record? He's no Divock Origi where we can kind of say, okay, he's got that in his locker. So, yeah, a lot of battling decisions and just very, very poor.
Also, Sheen, can I just jump in? Because you bring up a really good point about Xhaka. We have been sold since the summer that Arsenal is moving in a new direction. We have Project Youth. So we empower these young players. And let's be honest, Sambi Lokonga has been impressive. Yes, he had a tough game against Liverpool. He's had moments. Nuno has had moments. But what I love about the two of them is that they're unafraid, even when they make mistakes, to continually strive and put themselves out there in a game, right? And I think that's really important in terms of their growth. So when you sell all the fan base on Project Youth, and then you pick El Neni the week prior to play against Manchester United, which I understand that some people might say, well, he was part of the team that won 1-0 at Old Trafford last season. Well, we won, luckily, by a penalty. It's not because El Neni was a force, and that's why we won. And then the following week, you pick a player, like Mo said, who hasn't even kicked the ball for how many months, and was a player who, prior to getting injured against Tottenham, was let his team down by getting sent off. Was it at Manchester City, right, where he got sent off? So what message does that send to the fans and also those particular players? Now, look, I get rotation, but in this particular game against Everton, I would have said pick Sambi. But the question is always, who's going to partner Thomas Partey? What about Partey's partner? I think the question needs to change.
100%, Sophie. I was just going to say that has always been the question. Maybe that question is outdated now.
Yes. What has Thomas Partey brought to the table? Kevin on our show says a lot, and when he's seen him play, he's a Rolls Royce. Well, he was a Rolls Royce at Atletico Madrid when he was playing in midfield with quality players. The Arsenal Football Club is very different. How has he regressed since he's come to the club? Yes, he's been injured. But we're always trying to put that square peg in that round hole. Who's going to partner Thomas Partey? And for me, now that's become a problem because he's not performing. And the midfield is, you see every good team, guys, they have this engine in midfield. I remember the Jordan Henderson conversation at the beginning of the season with his contract at Liverpool. And I was like, I'd take Jordan Henderson every day of the week. Obviously, he's not going to come to Arsenal, but that engine in the midfield, whether it's City, Liverpool, Chelsea, and of course they're here now and we're here. But even teams like Leicester, Brighton, you've got Bissouma, you've got all these players at other clubs that engine in the midfield, and we're lacking that. And that is the difference between now we're seeing the defense suffer. Why? I think it's because a lot of what our midfield isn't doing. There's gaps appearing, like old school Wenger style, Emery style towards the end of his tenure. And they're not getting that protection. So for me, the tables have turned. Not only are we not creating chances, like Mo said, not only are we not finishing chances, but now our midfield is a massive issue and continues to be an issue.
You're spot on, Sophie. About 3 weeks ago, we were doing a show. It wasn't on a Monday night. We were just doing a different show. And I said, you know, the way that Thomas Partey is going and his injury record, it may be something that Arsenal may look at in summer to say maybe we'll move him on. It hasn't worked, right? And the way he's performing right now, it's not great. Maybe if we can get some money for him and we go find a replacement. I was very happy when he came in because, as you rightly said, I thought we bought a Rolls Royce. But he hasn't been the same. And I will come to that.
It's been more of a Fiat.
Yeah, he has. There's one thing. There's a lot happened since we've done a show together, Mo, last time. And I've heard Sophie's views on Highbury Squad on this, but I want to discuss this with you guys. Previously, we discussed the Arsenal captaincy, right? My view of the captain's armband at Arsenal is that it has lost its meaning and respect that it needs to have. It's now a tool that is used to convince someone to sign a contract that we know at the end he will probably leave or will be sold on. When we're talking about Arsenal captains, right, the names that come to my mind are Tony Adams, Patrick Vieira, Thierry Henry, Gilberto, Martin Keown, David Seaman, people with presence, people with character, people who you'd look at on a bad, shitty away day that you're not really performing, people who get you through the games, right? And then now I'm looking at Aubameyang, and I'm thinking, right, so this guy is not a captain material to start with. We all agree on that, right? And then he goes and likes Ronaldo's post on Instagram after a game that he scored 2 goals against us. Now, I'm thinking, so at the time that he's doing this after the game, what is it that is going through his mind as a captain? So he's obviously not upset. He's not hurt. He's not in pain. He's not. He doesn't feel humiliated, if you like. So if he's not feeling any of those, right? Then that means to me he doesn't care. He's not passionate about this as much as we are, and everything else that we see of him is probably PR or he's been told to say this. And that is my view now of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. I think he's lost a bit of pace, and he has not been the player the player that he was since he signed that contract. Now, this is my view on this whole captaincy of Aubameyang liking Ronaldo post. Yeah, please tell me I'm wrong and I'm overreacting.
You are, and here's why.
Oh man, that was too quick.
No, but come on, listen. I you know what I'm like, Shaheen. I will criticize where criticism is due, and trust me, there's a lot of that on offer after last night. But look, Bruno Fernandes recently posted on his Instagram a picture of Martinelli at training, with a motivating caption. I mean, it's just stupid, really, really stupid. But clearly what it shows is that's not Bruno Fernandes, because Bruno Fernandes doesn't have a login to Gabriel Martinelli's account. Yeah. Who does have a login to both? Obviously the PR company. The problem with Aubameyang, and why a lot of people are unsure, and even I am unsure to a degree, so I'm only playing devil's advocate here. I'm not saying to you 100% I know who was typing away on that comment, or who hit like, rather. But Aubameyang is very, very active on his own Instagram. He appears on Instagram lives and that sort of thing. So there is an element of doubt there. It's not a completely mundane Instagram account, but I am sure that was not Aubameyang liking that. I'm sure he's not that stupid or sort of like cares that little. I'm sure it would be the PR company. But what I would have liked to have seen was a statement from Aubameyang afterwards, just saying that, guys, sorry about that. In fact, I don't even know if it were to go back to that post, has it been unliked? Do you know what I mean? Has that like been removed?
Yes, it has.
Yeah. Well, see,
he did it. Mo, he did it. From what I know, he does his own PR. He's his own Instagram, from the cars to all of it.
I don't think that would be exclusive. I don't think it's only exclusively him. I'm sure other.
There's no way a PR person would like that post. I'm a PR. My PR's my background. I don't. There's a difference between like if I'm looking after my film background, right? I'm looking after an actor and they lose out an Academy Award or a Golden Globe to someone. They're going to congratulate someone else. It's a good thing to do. They were in a pool together, right? Yeah. It's very different congratulating a competitor after you've come off a match like that and liking someone celebrating against beating your team and your captain of that team. You talked about...
Especially when you've dropped an awful performance.
Exactly.
So I just don't think it was him. So am I outnumbered here?
Yeah, you are.
I absolutely do think it's him. And if there's an unlike, it just shows that whether it was him or someone else, it was a huge faux pas. I believe it's him. And here's why I believe it's him, Mo. And I'll quickly share this with you guys. Modern sports is very different to my era where I grew up. Tony Adams would never do that. Patrick Vieira would never, ever do that. No, Michael Jordan would never do that. No true competitor would do that. You can love Ronaldo and respect him as a player. Who doesn't? I mean, he's a phenomenon. But as Arsenal captain, when you're under fire as well, and you're not playing well, and we just went to Manchester United and lost 3-2 in the manner in which we did when we should have won that game. It's the game that is going to spiral us out of control. This was my biggest fear. I just think that was just so poor and in such poor taste. But modern footballers, they're all friends. They all kiss in the tunnel. They exchange shirts at halftime. My generation, I never grew up. For me, sports is competitive. You can be respectful. But as a fan, for me, that turned me off Aubameyang even more so. Ronaldo wouldn't do that. You saw that clip of Ronaldo in the Juventus dressing room the other day, yelling at his teammates and putting himself in the mix as well. Where's that fire? Where's that?
Exactly. But Aubameyang has never had that. Aubameyang is purely vibes. I get very frustrated with it. I don't see that sense of pride and anger that I saw with Thierry Henry, for example. But there's no point comparing him to Thierry Henry or Ronaldo because Aubameyang is not like that. But I'd love to take this to the comments. I still have a lot of conviction in my belief that was not Aubameyang. I really do not think it was very, very soon after the game. I don't think he's scrolling through Instagram and he's mentally so checked out of that fire and passion that he should have for Arsenal Football Club and his performances that he went and pressed like on that. I really don't. And I would say that because I believe that it's a PR company, that's how I can kind of square it off in my head. If I held your belief that it was him, for me, that's really, really very unacceptable and very, very annoying.
Could it be, Mo, that it was him, right? And he was dropped because of that? Because Aubameyang has been poor for a while now. It's not like he was bad against Man United and he got dropped next day. He's been poor for a while. Maybe Arteta, he's funny with these things. He knows it was him. And he said, well, you know what? You dropped for the next game. I hope that was it.
Well, I
hope he was Aubameyang. I said, I hope he was dropped for disciplining reason, not performances.
I think it was performances. What can I say? But in the chat, a few people have responded, and it seems like they're on your side. It seems like people generally, from what I've seen, there's not a huge amount of responses. But please let me know in the chat. It seems like people agree with you two. So maybe I am outnumbered.
Because I find it. I'm with Sophie on this, and I think if somebody is looking after somebody's Instagram account, even a PR person, right? Surely you'd know not to like that post. Your job is not there to like that. And if it's Aubameyang that's done it, if you want to show your affection for Ronaldo, go up to him. He's just next dressing room, wait for him to come out, and just tell him, you know what, you smashed it or whatever. Do it privately. You don't need to do it publicly.
I just cannot. Yeah.
Suresh, thank you very much for your super chat. Bye, Pirated, Stream Pirated, and Bocat Games watching in mute. Good channel. Okay, I'm not.
Do you know what?
Well, you're ready to a game, but thanks, man. Sorry, Sophie, go on.
No.
What did you just put up there?
I don't know. I was just trying to
pretty quickly.
Down.
That was good.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that the day all that kind of died for me was when Andre Santos swapped his shirt walking off at halftime against Manchester United and Robin van Persie. I think it was Andre Santos. I don't know if you guys remember that, but I was like, what the heck is going on here? I don't like players, kissing each other on the cheek before a game and saying hi and all that stuff. I want you to be in game mode. Now, maybe I'm old fashioned when it comes to that. But that's kind of my era. You can have a drink afterwards together, do that. But before the game and all this loving stuff, it's like, where's the fire and the competitiveness? I think that's the part that rubs me up the wrong way a little bit with the modern day footballer. Yeah.
Look, guys, this is what I want to do for the next segment of this show. And it's going to be difficult. I'm going to find it difficult myself, but I hope that you guys are a bit wiser than me. So hopefully you can drag me through this. I've been watching a lot of podcasts, a lot of social media posts, Twitter, Instagram. Everybody is on Arteta's case. Well, majority, right? That substitution poor, Arteta this, Arteta that, Arteta that. Now, what I want us to do, if we can, I want us to look from the other side of this. I want us to see if we can find a reason, right, for us not to be Arteta out, or find a reason for us not to call him to get sacked. I want us to find a reason, right, that to say, you know what, this guy, he needs time, he needs chance, because I'm struggling on that front.
I think I think it is possible to put a case forward. I personally don't believe in that case, but like if you're part of a
I need to believe in it.
No, I don't believe in it, Shaheen. But what I can do is kind of put a case forward. Like if you're in a debating club, someone can argue for this or against this, and you have to take that position and establish some logic to support that position. I can do that. And what I would say in that view is that, firstly, I do believe that Arteta has improved Arsenal's defence from when he came in to where we are now. It is better. Okay. Generally, and I know it's very early days, but the signings that he has been part of, because he's not a head coach anymore, he's a manager, so it leads me to believe that he's part of this, the signings. Majority of the signings are performing. And, I'm not saying they're setting the world alight, but they're doing okay.
Yeah.
There haven't been awful signings. And the third one is that this season, so far, we are on track to improve on last season. Now, it's hard not to improve on last season, given that we finished 8th. But not only are we on track, but we've also had numerous difficult away games already this season. They've kind of been front-loaded. So that's Leicester, Liverpool, Everton, United, City, just to name a few away games. So we've had 15 games in the league. I've just mentioned 5, and that means we've played 7 or 8 away games. So you can see that in terms of away games, they've been front-loaded. When you look at December, now our remaining fixtures, our toughest game is West Ham at home. So when we consider that 2 games ago, we were talking about top 4, a lot of Arsenal fans were talking about top 4. I do believe at the end of December, if we go on another little run, 5 games unbeaten, get 5 victories on the bounce, even, for example, and they won't be great. Our highest margin of victory is only 2 goals this season. Even if we're unconvincing in this December run, we could be back around that 4th spot position, given how inconsistent the teams are around us, of which we are also inconsistent. So what I would say is that they're the reasons why I could say right now people could be putting a case together to say, no, we shouldn't sack him right now. There's a lot of moving parts, and the picture could look very different in 2 weeks, just as it did look very different 2 weeks ago. I hope I've at least put.
Is this the scenario that you don't believe in, or you do believe in?
No, what I'm saying is that I feel like that argument I've put forward holds water, but I don't believe in Mikel Arteta myself. Okay. So I would be pointing to the other factors. So I've spoken about how our difficult away games have been front-loaded. What I could also speak about is the wins that we've had in the league. We've had 7 wins in the league this year. Those wins have come against a team in 17th in Watford, 18th in Burnley, 19th in Newcastle, 20th in Norwich. That's 4 out of our 7. The other 3, Leicester away, who have been in free fall. Awful, like Everton. But, thankfully we didn't do what we did against Everton, against Leicester. The other 2 games at home, Tottenham and Villa, which have been our standout performances of the season. They are our standouts, So those 7 games, I don't think they're, when you consider 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, I don't think really those 7 games, the profile of those games is a compelling argument to say, oh, Arteta's the man. In fact, it kind of points to the fact that we're flat track bullies in a way. So that's what I believe in. But all I'm trying to do is present the alternate case. I don't want this to just be an affair where we, for an hour, sit here and bash Arteta.
That's exactly why I brought this up.
Put together an intelligent argument as to why some parts of the fan base may still believe in him, whether we believe in that or not.
Interesting. I've tried very hard to be positive about Mikel Arteta. And a few people kind of wrote to me today saying, oh, just a couple of weeks ago, you were bigging Arteta up. I'm not bigging him up. I'm just saying, okay, you know what? He's here for the entire season. He's not going anywhere. We've got to figure out how to get behind the manager, because I'm always behind the team. I'll be an Arsenal fan. Players have come and gone, and we fans are still here, and we will still be here when Arteta leaves one day. And that is just a fact for all of us, right? Now, I was looking at the table this time 2 years ago when Emery lost his job. I believe Unai was in 7th place and we had 19 points. What position are we in today? Similar, exactly, with 23 points. Now, I keep hearing how he's improved our defense, and I do believe there's been there has been from January last season through to the end of the season, we had improved. We've let in 5 goals against City, 4 against Liverpool, 3 against United recently, and 2 against Everton. It could have been 4. Ramsdale had multiple clean sheets for a bit. And you ask yourself, how does that flip? What's happening? I think the issue with Arteta is when you just want to believe in him, he does something that you question and is kind of baffling. I talked about that earlier, whether it's substitutions, man management, who's going out on loan, what's happening with the Saliba situation. Mavropanos is doing well at Stuttgart. Torreira's gone, Guendouzi's gone. And rightly so, in January, he cleared out. This is one thing I really respect him for. Ozil and Socrates and Mustafi. Kolasinac is still there. But he was able to do that because he had the support that Emery never did. Let's be honest. A different hierarchy for Arteta versus Emery. So the question is now, I've found it difficult to get behind him because, number one, the love coupons of the FA Cup for me have expired. This is why he's still in a job. And the difference between him and Emery is one won their cup final and the other one didn't. And we leaked a lot more goals under Emery. We scored more goals under Emery. Yeah. So fixing the defense has come with the sacrifice of not scoring goals and 100%. Not being creative. Yeah. And I think that's the tricky part with him. So when you want to... this is why I couldn't get excited about beating Newcastle. It's like, I want to see what we do against Manchester United. I want to see what we do against Leicester. We passed the Leicester test. We passed the Tottenham test. But we still showed deficiencies in passing those tests. Yeah. What is his identity? How does he want to play football? Everyone keeps telling me he wants to play out of the back and he wants to press. And it's like, but it feels like there's inconsistencies there too. So I look at Gerrard. He's had an immediate impact at Aston Villa. Players are responding. You could see an identity immediately. Wins 3 out of 4 games. Now, I know Norwich aren't great, but Dean Smith has had an effect on them. Yes, they lost their last game, but he's come in, won 2 games, and given them a bit of hope and a bit of chance.
Thomas Tuchel, Sophie.
Yeah, but that's a totally different scenario, but I get it. And the comparison there for me is like, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Frank Lampard, legends of their club, absolute legends, won it all.
Yeah.
Ole lasted longer than I think a lot of people. They kept faith in him because of that legendary status. But in the end, football's cutthroat. He's gone. Frank Lampard, legend at Chelsea, probably their best player ever in their history, gets cut. We don't have that ruthlessness at our club. Mikel Arteta is not a legend of Arsenal Football Club.
No.
And I know you want me to skew this differently and answer your question in a different way, but I don't understand why he's so protected. Modern day football isn't to sit back and it be like, yeah, you got time. There's no time in modern day football. We're falling and falling and falling behind our competitors who are no longer our competitors. We're looking over our shoulder now. Wolves, Leicester, Aston Villa, Brighton. That's our level. And that's happened under his watch. Yeah. And he lost us European football too, which to me is the biggest crime of all. Yeah. And that's why we had to go and attract the Tomiyasus and the Nunos and the Sambis, because you can't attract world-class footballers or great footballers without European football. And if he fails to qualify for Europe this year, he's got to lose his job.
Yeah. Can I offer you a scenario, Sophie, for what you just said, that why is Mikel Arteta protected? And give me just 1 second. Let me just read out super chat from Rohan. Thank you very much, Rohan. Ambitious Club gets Gretzky and Suchek in January. I doubt Arsenal will do that, but thanks for the super chat. I think if Arteta gets the sack, right, I think Edu and Vinay will need to follow him out. And I think that's one of the reasons that he's there, because if he goes, there's a lot of people that they need to follow him out, because then you need to go back and say, well, hold on. So why did you guys at the time went for a manager twice, right? Twice, that has no experience, nothing. And remember the way we done it. It was like a supermarket dash. Vinay, 12 o'clock at night, in a van in Manchester, coming out of Arteta's house. Do you remember that with the pictures? Right? And then these are the guys now that are responsible to bring in a replacement for Mikel Arteta. So I think it may be just a scenario, right? I think maybe this is one of the reasons that he's protected, because I don't see any player that has improved massively under him. I don't see us improving massively. You rightly said we're out of Europe, where we shouldn't have. The way he messed up those semi-finals, that was criminal. Right?
Raheem, I am guessing here, Sophie, but I mean, I'm assuming you mean protected by the fans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and also, he
definitely
has protection by the. Well, for now, he seems to be protected by Vinay and the owners. To be quite honest, but he's definitely protected by a portion of the fans, 100%.
Yeah, and you know, you use the term "love coupons," which I find funny. You know, for the FA Cup. So perhaps for some fans, I don't know where these love coupons come from. Maybe it is the fact that he won the CFA Cup. Maybe it is the fact that he used to play for Arsenal. I think a lot of the love coupons come from the fact that he was Pep's assistant. You know, I don't see why these should be love coupons for
Great
us.
Point. Yes.
But yeah, these love coupons do exist out there. I personally think, look, it's very, very clear. I spoke about this 6-game run that has just culminated in the Everton game. Started with the Leicester away game, finished in the Everton away game. I spoke about this 60 games and I said, this will tell us everything we need to know about Mikel Arteta. And it has told me everything I need to know. He's an also-ran. He's not the guy. I think it's very, very clear that there's a whole host of managers out there that I think would give us an immediate and a long-standing sort of benefit to our performances and our results. So like a Ten Hag, for example, or a Gasperini, as an example. I think, would Ajax fans or Atlanta fans want Arteta? I don't think so. Would Arsenal fans want them? I think so. And I think that tells you everything you need to know. My opinion is made up now, even though I have tried to give a lot of credit and respect to Mikel Arteta during that 10-game unbeaten run, and really tried to say to myself, are you stuck in your own thoughts and your own mindset based on the opinion that you formed on him? Or are you able to really give him a proper chance and view him objectively? And I really have tried this season. Yeah. Ultimately, I think these 6 games, being objective and not emotional about it, because I have no dislike for Mikel Arteta, these 6 games have told me everything I need to know. And Shaheen, you would have heard me say this. Sophie, there's one thing I always say about the way I look at Arsenal Football Club is I only ever want the most direct route to success. And that means the
100.
players that are currently there, the manager that's currently there, everything that's already there. That's the most direct route to success, and that's what I want. So it doesn't matter what I think of Granit Xhaka, or what I think of Mikel Arteta, or Vinay, or Edu, or anyone else, or even the Cronkies. I want Arsenal to have the most direct route to success. But I don't think
100%.
going to be the case with Mikel Arteta.
We haven't even talked about the fact that he's been speaking in his conferences that he wants to bring Arsene Wenger back to help him. So in a way, is he admitting that he needs help and he's out of his depth? I know your views on this.
Then get a better assistant. Get a better group of assistants. The one thing I always admired about Sir Alex Ferguson is as he grew old, he never let the game grow old with him. Yeah. He always turned his staff around. He kept up. This is why Wenger, unfortunately, didn't do the same thing, right? And I have a tremendous amount of respect for Arsene Wenger. He gave us some of the best years of our lives as Arsenal football fans. But I thought Arteta weakened his position when he said that in the conference. I would say I love and respect the man. He's always welcome back, at Arsenal to watch a game. This movie's amazing, XXX. We need to build a new DNA and culture. We cannot continue to look in the rearview mirror as fans. We don't progress that way. You can look back in the rearview mirror and revere life and memories. That's fine. But when you're looking in the rearview mirror for a blueprint to a new path of success, it's never going to work. When I was working at 20th Century Fox, do I want my old boss who I replaced or someone who was in my position to come back and give me advice? No, I have mentors for that. I don't bring back the person who used to be in that position. It makes people look, I think it makes you look weak.
But so, the interesting thing is, Arteta wants Arsene Wenger back for exactly the same reason that Arteta was appointed in the first place. Sentiment. Purely because you have previously served the club. If Arteta had never played for Arsenal, he would not have been chosen as Arsenal manager. It's only because of that link. Yeah. And now it's the same thing. There's no other manager saying, I want Arsene Wenger to come in. It's only again because Arsene Wenger was a previous manager. We need to step away from all of this. But our club is riddled with this. Mm-hmm. Josh Kroenke is only doing the role that he is doing because his daddy owns the club. It's a far cry from saying, who's the best man or woman for the job? Let's go and get them. It's based on these irrational, not arbitrary, but irrational, silly reasons that don't put the best man for the job at the central focus of why someone's being recruited. Why did no other club get Arteta? Why is no other club trying to get Wenger? We need to start seeing things really, really clearly and asking questions of how we make some decisions.
And also, Mo, as wonderful as it is, for example, Manchester United and Arsenal, both in similar positions in that they've had to replace legendary managers. Let's be honest, that's not easy for any organization to do that, right? I say organization, team, but it's a business these days. Now, when you watch a United game, how many times does it pan to Sir Alex Ferguson, or did it pan to Sir Alex Ferguson when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and United were failing, right? Now, it's all well and good him being there, but he's there. It's like this eye that's continually looking at you. And it happened with Moyes, Van Gaal, Mourinho, Ole. The narrative was always, they haven't won the league since Sir Alex Ferguson has gone, and he's in the stands and he's watching. And it's different with Bobby Charlton when he was, when he's watching them play. I just find it like at some point you've got to take off the reins, respect the past and move forward. And I think sometimes having that over your head, especially as a young manager, very, very difficult. Very difficult.
I agree with you.
One more point, sorry, Shaheen, because you mentioned that Arteta's kind of saying about Wenger coming back for help. I don't think it is help. I think Arteta is almost trying to be like gracious
PR.
And just good PR. He knows that Arsene Wenger is hugely loved at this club, even by the people that shouted at the rooftops for him to leave. They now are saying all these nice, lovely things, which annoys me in its own right, but they're now all kind of saying, Arsene Wenger, we love him and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's just a clever game. It makes him look like a really nice, lovely chap, and there's no moral high ground to be struck here. It's not a competition, but it gives him an element of high ground and just good PR, like Sophie said. So
yeah.
I'm
He's
sure
good at that. He's very good at PR. He's very good at PR.
Just give
I
us
agree.
results. That's all that
I
matters.
agree with you both. Last topic that I just want to discuss, and before that, guys, we've got about just under 400 people watching, so please hit the like. We only got 60 likes. Please sort it out. And just Arteta, I think he was just a very average midfielder, and now he's a very average manager, and that's the best I can say about him. But Sophie, I've asked this question under a lot of different circumstances, right? And I've come back to this again, right? The question is, where is the red line for Arteta? What is this line that once he crosses it, people will be looking to pull the trigger from the board on him and say, right, we need to change the manager now? Because it looks to me that line is is quite far below where we are now, because he's still in a job, and there's no improvement out of Europe. He's only got one game a week now that he's struggling with, and I still don't know where is this. If I'm putting this across, I don't know if I'm explaining.
Yeah, no, I totally understand.
Where
It's
is
a
this
great
line? That
it's
is
a
the
great
bottom
question.
line,
Yeah, it's a great question. And unfortunately, I think for us, we're not going to know the answer to that until the end of the season. Now, I don't want to compare us. I never want to bring Tottenham into a conversation. But honestly, it kind of crushed my soul when they got Antonio Conte. It really did, because he's going to improve that team. Even if it's for just an 18-month period or 2 years, he will get something out of that team, that squad, and he can attract players. He can get them back into the Champions League. God forbid, but he could bring them a domestic cup this season. When I see us missing out on those kinds of managers, from the Pep to Klopp to multiple others, the line is going to be when we don't qualify, or God forbid again, if we don't qualify for Europe. But the difference between our club and the Tottenhams or the Chelseas or even the Aston Villas of the world is that we're not willing to pull the trigger to see if we can get a manager in who can help us achieve that goal. We're willing to double down and stick and say, okay, this is our guy, and we're going to see what happens at the end of the season, which scares me because it could be too late. We have a route back through the cups, the domestic cups, and we have still a route back to finish in the top 6. But that's not guaranteed in the Premier League. Last season, he threw away the FA Cup, and that hurt us. Yeah. That was a bad move. Yeah. But the cups are always a route back into Europe. One through qualifying. So for me, it's the European stick, because if we're going to improve as a club, if we want to get better and be more competitive in the league, we have to attract players, and modern day players want to play in Europe. And even though we weren't in the Champions League, we could attract Oba, Laka, Partey, Kieran Tierney, Pepe, Gabriel, because we had Europa League football, and that's a route back into the Champions League. And it's not because we can win it. It's the fiscal rewards that yields that allows you to reinvest in the side. So that line is very fine, but we're not the kind of club that pulls the trigger. We're not a managerial revolving door like Chelsea. And say what you want about them, that's yielded them results. That's their culture. It's not ours.
And I think that comes down to the ambition of the owners, because Shaheen, you're asking about where this line is. We can give you our opinion. The only line that's factual is that of the owners. For me, the line would be anywhere below 6th, so effectively European qualification. But for the owners, they're so unambitious that I don't think that would be their line. I think their line would be lower, because what are they ultimately interested in? We've seen that it's not really on the field success. I think their motives are something different entirely. And
and I know that there's Nick, I just want to address your comment in chat. He keeps saying, but you were backing this. There's a difference between, choose your words carefully, I try to support it. Doesn't mean I believe in it, but as a fan, I want to support what was happening. I want to get behind the manager. I want him to do well. If he does well, Arsenal do well. I don't want him to fail. I don't want to be right. I don't want to be wrong. Yeah. And that's not what this is about. This is about supporting and help. And Mo brought it up earlier. The route to success. That's what we care about. So you want to support that. But when you see that it's the stability isn't consistent week in, week out, it's okay to question it. I think that's the difference. Sorry,
Yeah,
I just had to address that.
No. And you're right, Sophie, because I got it sometimes as well when, you've been on a good run, and you have to praise the manager if he gets a good result. I don't watch Arsenal thinking, right, what am I going to look today to find to moan about at the end of the game, or what am I going to find today to bash Mikel Arteta? I don't. I want us to win, but if when he wins, and we've done it before on his channel with Mo, Tom, everybody, when he wins, we've given him credit, and when he's losing right now, we criticize him, and rightly so. The real Giannis, thank you very much for your super chat as well. Big up all you guys. So tired of ups and downs, super draining. I don't want consistency, and I don't mean consistent failure. Yep, 100%. There's another one from Dalio. Thank you again for your super chat. No excuse or reasons for this poor performance. He has to finish in top 5 and above Spurs. Otherwise, it's goodbye for me. Non-negotiable. If you guys were just trying to round it up and end the show, if you were an Arsenal board, right, would you be looking to move him on now and get a replacement? Sophie.
Because of the investment made and the fact that he's just had this new team in the summer, these new signings, right? December is always a concern. You don't want to have a bad run in December with all these games coming at you. If in January we're in 8th or 9th, then I say pull the trigger. And look at Manchester United, right? They pulled the trigger because there's still a chance that they can qualify in the top 4, that they can win something. They did that. They kept faith with Ole way too long. We can't do that. We can't dilly-dally. Football moves way too fast, and our competitors continue to evolve and grow, and we don't want to be stagnant, and that's the problem. So I say if we get to January and we're in the same position, what do you think is going to change between then and the end of the season?
And if we are in January and we are in this position, do you have confidence in the board and the club to do that?
I think this is where the Cronkies will either completely drive the Arsenal fans to the point where the sky's falling, or they'll be like, you know what? Finally, they've made a bold decision. Because as an owner of a company or an owner of a football team or any brand, if you continue to see results go against you or you see failure, you can't reward that, right? You have to make a bold decision. And I hope that they're able to make that bold decision. Look, the Cronkies didn't pick the team against United. They didn't pick the formation. They didn't do that against Everton. But they have the power to change things. And hopefully they will do that smartly. And they pulled the trigger pretty quickly on Unai. Why is Mikel Arteta so protected?
Exactly. Mo?
Look, I would say, well, I mentioned the December fixtures earlier, so I'll just run through them very quickly. Southampton at home, West Ham at home, and only Premier League fixtures I'm going to do here. Leeds away, Norwich away, Wolves at home. All of those, to me, sound winnable because West Ham...
West Ham at home?
Yeah, but even West Ham at home, we should be able to win. We're at home, okay? So what I would say is that I would be looking at that, and January is obviously very important in the context of further investment and who you entrust with that investment. So I'd be looking at that.
And AFCON, Mo. There's AFCON as well, so you're going to lose players too. So, sorry.
So I'd be looking at that and I'd be saying, going into January, we need to know that you're the man. So 12 out of 15, 12 points out of 15 is a minimum.
And if he doesn't get that, Mo,
then he's gone. As far as I'm concerned, he's gone, yeah.
And do you think that... Do you have confidence in the board to do that?
Absolutely not.
They're gonna. I think he's here till the end of the season. I don't think we're going to make a mid-season change. But we did. Unai got sacked this time 2 years ago. In a month's time, he lost his job. But the problem is, apparently, according to the universe, he lost the dressing room. Well, do you want to ask questions about why our senior players aren't showing up? I'm not trying to create rumors here, but clearly they're not responding to something.
And the senior player thing is very, very pertinent because, you know, when you're a new manager and not everyone's buying into you, for example, generally in football dressing rooms, the younger players will fall into line. But it's those senior players that will challenge a manager. Football's very hierarchical like that. Even like a young player won't often question or say too much to senior players. It's like quite hierarchical. And I believe that's why a lot of these senior players were pushed out, were managed out. And we've gone on this youth project because, you'll get a engaged group for the manager. So I wonder, Sophie, as well, in terms of what you're saying, I wonder if he has got the dressing room with the senior players. I'm not so sure.
Yeah. Ru Giannis, again, thank you very much for your super chat, my brother. Result performances annoy me, but what really gets to me is these weird decisions. Nketiah playing, Pepe Xhaka playing when he looks exhausted, not making changes when the team was freaking out. We discussed that at depth earlier with Sophie and Mo. And, you know, we've been going for an hour now, so I just want to wrap things up. I'm conscious that it's a bit late as well. So, Sophie, last words to finalize things and wrap things up.
I think Kevin Campbell said to me a while ago, he goes, it's going to become more painful before it improves. And what I would like to see, and I've been very proud of Arsenal fans in stadium this season and away. Look, Mo travelled up north, went to Goodison Park yesterday for the game, home today. We had a listener on our show, went to Manchester United, Old Trafford, got home at 4:00 in the morning. You know, fans put their hands in their pockets and they do it because they have a love for the club. It's part of our lifestyle, our culture. And as long as we can stick together and respect each other's opinions, whether we agree or not, for me, that's the biggest thing, because I think that we're in for a bit of a bumpy ride over the next couple of months. And I know that there are a lot of voices that kind of, you know, there's this infighting if we disagree. And it's okay to disagree, but we have to do it respectfully. So for me, everything we say is all for the love of the club. And if Arteta succeeds, our team succeeds. And unfortunately, if he doesn't, it's okay to kind of voice your opinion about that. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I love the show and you guys smart football analysts and stuff. So I appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure, Sophie, to have you on. You sound wonderful. And your knowledge is also perfect. And there's a lot of love for you in the chats as well. And it's always nice to have you on. I always enjoy listening to you and your thoughts, and always love having you on and speaking to you.
Thank you.
No problem. Mo, what about you?
Yeah, I would echo that as well. What you just said about Sophie. There's so much love for you in the chat. You need to give us some tips because you're clearly a popular girl. Listen, what I would say is that, Sophie, you mentioned a comment from a guy called Nick in the chat earlier on, who's kind of saying, "Oh, but you were saying this last month." You know, when people do that, what it kind of cultivates is that crap. I don't want that criticism, so I have to stick with what I've said previously, and then you start becoming agenda-driven rather than support-driven. Like you mentioned, you just want to support. No matter what happens, right? Ryan, that's your prerogative. If you want to call it Sophie up on that and whatever. But what I would much rather is that in 1 month's time, people are referring to this episode and saying, all of you guys were slagging Arteta off and now you're giving him praise. I'd rather it was that way round than us being told, oh, you were supporting him and now you're slagging him off. If we're getting what I want to happen, it means that Arteta's getting it right and we're getting it wrong. That's where I want to be if we're the ones that don't believe in him. Prove us wrong, Mikel. Please prove us wrong, because ultimately that's all what we all want.
Well said.
On that lovely note, it's going to be hard for me to follow that more. I'll be very honest with you. But no, thank you very much for everybody in the comments who gave us your time to watch us. Please hit the like, subscribe to Arsenal Lounge, subscribe to Highbury Squad, subscribe to Moh's channel. We all do great content. We're all part of this Arsenal family, and we all want Arsenal to win, because when Arsenal win, we're happy, we're in a better mood, and we can have better conversations. You know, nobody likes to talk about Arteta getting, this, Arteta getting a sack. Where is the line? He needs to go. Is this, is that? We all want to talk about winning. We're talking about goals, good performances. But again, on behalf of obviously Lev, who couldn't hear, and myself, thank you to Sophie and Mo who've joined us. And thank you to everybody who watched us. Have a wonderful evening, and hopefully we'll see you guys soon. Thank you again. Take care.